Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Practical and Healing Applications of A Course in Miracles with me, Rebecca Quinn. This is a class where I'm going to be teaching from A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is a self-study curriculum whose purpose is peace of mind, and it's a self-study curriculum, but many people find it easier to study with groups or with a teacher. And there is no centralized teacher. It's just a curriculum that has been given to us by Spirit, through Spirit, to help us to accomplish and achieve and experience lasting peace of mind. Yes, it is possible. No matter what you hear on the news, lasting peace is possible, even here, if you are willing to and able to receive a new interpretation from a higher, more loving, more wise intelligence. And that's what A Course in Miracles is, and that's where it came from. And so today we're going to be reading from A Course in Miracles, as I do in each of my Monday Practical and Healing Applications of A Course in Miracles class. So that's what we're going to do, and I am going to put up where we're at. Let's see. Let me find where is the class? Okay, here we go. All right, today we're going to be in the teacher's manual. A Course in Miracles is a curriculum that consists of a text in which the theoretical foundation of this thought system is laid out. The second book is the workbook, where the ideas from the text can be, you can learn how to put them into practical daily application. That's the workbook. And the third portion of this curriculum is a teacher's manual. And the teacher's manual is a manual for those who have realized that in order to experience and accept these ideas, they got to share these ideas. And so the teacher's manual is for all those who are wanting to learn how to share these ideas so that they can learn them. And so this section is from the teacher's manual, and it is teacher's manual question number 5, how is healing accomplished? Hi, Tricia. All right. Yes, Tricia, we are your miracle makers in the house. So this is where we're at. We're going to talk about healing. The title of the question that we're going to be talking about is, how is healing accomplished? So first thing I want to say about healing is that healing is anywhere where you are not experiencing peace of mind. So wherever you are not experiencing peace of mind, that is where you need healing. So, so I titled this, how is healing of all kinds accomplished? So when you hear the question, how is healing accomplished? Maybe you automatically think of healing as in the body. But the healing that we're talking about here is anything that is producing a lack of peace. Any place where you are not experiencing peace and joy and abundance and freedom, which is your natural state. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So what is it that you desire healing in? What area of your life do you desire a healing in? Course in Miracles, one definition out of many that A Course in Miracles uses for healing is undoing of fear. So where is it in your life that you would like an undoing of fear? So as we go through this class, then think about that. Think about applying these principles to wherever it is in your life that you would like to experience an undoing of fear. Okay. That's where you need healing. And we're going to talk about how that is accomplished. Okay. How can I accomplish an undoing of fear in this particular area of my life? That's what we're going to talk about today. All right. So where we're at is in the teacher's manual, and question number 5, how is healing accomplished? So if you're new to the course, you want to go to the third book of the Course in Miracles. That's going to be at the back of the book. It's called the Teacher's Manual, and it has 29 questions that someone who's going to be sharing and extending these ideas to learn them might ask in the course of this curriculum. So, how is healing accomplished? Here we go. It says, healing involves an understanding of what the illusion of sickness is for. So, healing involves an understanding of what the illusion of sickness is for. What is the illusion of sickness for? What is this problem for? All problems, according to A Course in Miracles, are illusions. To say, what is this illusion of sickness for, is to say, what is this problem for? That is how healing is accomplished. To ask yourself, what purpose is this problem serving? What is the payoff in this problem? What do you mean, payoff in the problem? What do you mean, payoff? And I'm supposed to ask myself, what's the payoff in this problem? Well, there's a payoff in this problem because this problem isn't natural. This problem wasn't given to you. This problem is something that was chosen. That's what A Course in Miracles says. Since problems are not natural, problems are not given by God, then every problem is a decision that we made. Because problems are not natural, which means if you got a problem, you chose that problem, you wanted that problem, you made that problem, and you made it for a reason. That's what A Course in Miracles is telling us about our sicknesses, which is about our problems. Very radical, but it is true. And the reason our problems have not been solved, the reasons our sicknesses have not been solved, is because we don't see them as something that we've chosen, something that we've made to serve a particular purpose. We see our problems as accidents or things that have happened to us. We see our problems as things that are happening to us. We don't see them as the result of choices that we have made, invitations that we have made. And that's why our problems have not been solved, no matter how many tricks and remedies that we have tried to heal this sickness, this problem. So we're asking ourselves, what is the sickness? What is the problem that I am experiencing right now in my life? Okay, what is the sickness I'm experiencing? And so that's what we want to ask ourselves. So, because whatever it is, we need to ask ourselves, we need to come to an understanding of what purpose that problem is serving. What is the payoff in that problem to us? We've got to ask ourselves that question and answer that so that we can experience a healing in that area, an undoing of fear in that area. So, what is that for you? Let me know in the comments. What kind of healing? What kind of healing do you need today? As of this recording right now, the first thing that comes to my mind is there's a sickness in my world. There's a sickness in the world that I am experiencing, where I experience my world as sick. And it's a problem. It does not bring me peace. It brings me a lot of fear. That's just mine for today. What is yours for today? So, whatever it is, we want to try to understand the payoff to us that there is in this problem. All right. Okay, good. That's the first thing we want to do. Okay, Trisha says, well, you know, we kicked alcoholism and we kicked cancer's butt and metastatic cancer. Then MS now diagnosed. Okay, so the problem, the sickness that we want to look at and ask some questions of for you, Trisha, are that, right? What's the payoff in this for me right now? Okay, I shared mine. My sickness that I need to ask myself, what's the payoff in, is my experience of being in a sick world, you know, where my world is sick. You know, it seems to be ruled by fear and lack, and, you know, a few psychopaths rule the many. That's the sick world that I'm upset about. Okay, so healing involves an understanding of what the illusion of the problem or the sickness is for. Healing is impossible without understanding what this sickness, what this problem is for. Healing is impossible without understanding what this sickness or this problem is for. What's it for? That's the question that we're asking today, of whatever is our particular problem. Okay. And then Trisha says, I don't have MS anymore. Now I'm being healed and I just have FND. I don't know what that is. I'm so grateful every day. It's like peeling an onion and healing and healing. MS isn't something. Thank you, Trisha, for being so honest about the sickness and the problem that you are asking the question of, what is this for? Good job. Way to be honest. Way to ask the right questions. Okay. So now it says, what is the perceived purpose of sickness? Like, what is the payoff in sickness? The perceived payoff in sickness, right? Obviously, there's no really good payoff in sickness, really. Certainly, love doesn't demand a payment like sickness. But here's the perceived purpose of sickness, the perceived payoff of sickness. Well, it says, healing of this sickness, of this problem, is accomplished the instant that you and me, the sufferer of this problem, no longer sees any value in pain. Woof. Let me see if I heard that right. Let me see if I heard you right, Course in Miracles. You're saying the instant me, the sufferer, no longer sees any value in pain, that I will experience healing instantly of this problem. Okay, well, let's see if that's true. The Course in Miracles says you don't have to believe these ideas. Obviously, you don't. You don't have to welcome these ideas. Obviously, you don't. And you could find these ideas incredibly startling and hard to believe, which obviously we do. And that doesn't matter. The Course says it's the use of these ideas that will show you, prove to you that they're true. So don't try to believe A Course in Miracles. Just use it, even though you don't believe it, and then you will see that these ideas are true. I don't have to fully understand that the reason I've got this sickness and this problem because I see some payoff in it, in order to use these ideas and ask myself what's the payoff, in order to experience instant healing. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to welcome it. I don't have to understand it. I can actively resist it, all of which I do. All I got to do is use it on whatever my particular problem or sickness is that day, to have the idea proved, to have the truth of the idea proved to me. Love that. Okay. So what's it saying? It's saying healing is accomplished the instant that we, or the one who's suffering, no longer sees any value in this suffering. The moment I go, I no longer see any value in this suffering, I am instantly healed of that suffering. All right. Trish says, I have no value in sickness or in pain. I'm just a miracle. Yes, you are, honey. I am a witness. You are just a miracle. You are a miracle with legs, and you are adorable miracle in a beautiful communication device, Trisha. I know. I'm a witness. I see you. I know you. So I know that's true. Okay. And then it says, now, who would choose to suffer this problem, this sickness, unless they thought that this sickness or this pain or this problem brought you something, and something of value to you? Okay. Oh, so it's a choice. You're saying suffering's a choice. What do you mean suffering's a choice? Well, it didn't come from God. Suffering's not natural. So if any kind of suffering happened, some kind of choice had to happen. Okay. And you wouldn't have chosen this unnatural thing called sickness and suffering. Like, who would choose to suffer unless they thought that suffering's going to bring them something of value? Okay, I don't have to choose this. I am choosing it. It sucks. It hurts. And so I'm not going to choose it unless I'm getting something out of it. And that's what A Course in Miracles is saying about suffering. And yes, obviously we don't believe that. We all believe that we are the victim of our suffering. And that's what keeps it going. And yes, it seems outrageous at first to go, oh, well, if I'm suffering, it's something I chose because I thought there's some kind of payoff in it. It seems like that's insane to say, because if I'm choosing to suffer, well, that would mean I'm insane. And yeah, that's exactly what A Course in Miracles is saying. That yes, we are insane. That's right. We are choosing to suffer. That's not the only option. It's not natural, the universe. And we're choosing it because we think that we're going to get something out of it. Okay. Like, for instance, are people going to feel guilty enough to do what you want them to do if you're the happiest, most beautiful, rich, happy, healthy, wealthy, wise? Are people going to feel guilty enough to do what you want them to do if you're the image of happiness, health, and wealth? Okay, no, they're not. If you're the image of happiness, health, and wealth, nobody's going to feel guilty enough to do what you want them to do, because when you tell them, oh, if you don't do this, I won't be happy, they're not going to believe you. And so it has to be true that, and so the payoff in sickness is, well, if I'm suffering enough, others will feel guilty enough to do what I want them to do in the script of what I dream my life should be. That's a payoff that we need to look at. Okay? If I'm happy, healthy, and wealthy, who can I manipulate with guilt to feel bad enough to do what I want them to do? Okay? That's one of the payoffs, and we'll get to others. There's plenty. So, but the sufferer, the one who's suffering, they must think that their suffering and their problem and their sickness is a small price to pay for something of greater worth. Okay? For me to consent to suffer, to have this problem, I must believe that that problem is a small price to pay for what I believe is of greater worth. I'll say I gotta close the window. It's raining in here. It's raining into my office. All right. Beautiful. I know some pretty crazy stuff talking about what's behind our suffering. I'm telling you, it's very different and strange and weird. But if you're still experiencing suffering, then you haven't heard the real answer yet. So let it be okay that you don't believe what it's saying about the real cause of healing and the real cause of suffering. Don't be surprised and offended that you don't understand it or you don't agree with it, because obviously you don't believe this, as evidenced by the continued sickness and suffering. So, which means if you're going to experience true healing, lasting healing of this problem of the sickness, you've got to be hearing something that you're not already thinking, or else you would have already accepted and received and experienced the healing of your suffering, your sickness. All right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Tricia. Good job. Yeah, Tricia says you might be right about that. The children went to live with their father, and I think you're right somewhere. I didn't laugh, and I wanted attention, I guess. Gotcha. That's the healing process. Good job, Tricia. We have to look at what was the payoff I thought I was going to get from suffering in the way I did, in the ways I did. What is the payoff I thought? Right. And as with all things that we try, I'll do this, I'll make myself pitiful enough, I'll suffer enough, and then people will do what I want them to do. It makes sense that you thought that would work. And then every time we tried it, it just got worse. Right. So now we're learning the real way to heal all sickness, all suffering, all pain, all problems. And it's to cross-examine it, put it on the witness stand, and ask it a few pointed questions that you really hadn't asked of it before. We had really let the sickness and that we call to the sickness and the suffering. It came and we just let it come on in and take over our life and produce a lot of problems and a lot of sickness and a lot of suffering. And it kind of took over, and we never asked it a question like, what are you doing here? What's your purpose? What do you really get? If I'm going to allow you in to bring suffering into my life, what am I going to get out of the deal? So now we're doing that. Now we are asking ourselves some tough questions about the payoff in the problems that we're experiencing. And it says, and as soon as we start asking those questions, that's when healing really starts flowing to us. Love it. Right. If pain is not natural, it's not coming from God, it's not natural in the universe, then who would choose? Then if you're suffering, that was your choice. And who would choose to suffer unless they thought that that suffering brought them something and something of value? Okay. That's what we're talking about. Now, if you have chosen sickness because you think that it's going to bring you something of value, like people feeling guilty enough to do what you want them to do, then you must think that that suffering is a small price to pay for something of greater worth. My suffering is a small price to pay for getting them to feel guilty enough to do what I want them to do, or to make me special in the ways I want to be made special. In other words, and then so it's because sickness is an election. Sickness is a decision. Sickness is an election. Sickness is a decision. Sickness, suffering, this problem is a choice of weakness in the mistaken conviction that being weak makes you strong. I'm choosing this weakness. I'm choosing this sickness. I'm choosing this problem. I'm choosing this pain. I'm deciding on this pain. I'm choosing on this suffering because I believe mistakenly that sickness and weakness is strength. As a little kid, what did you get when you got sick? What happened when you were sick or suffering or hurt when you were a child? You got love. You got attention. You got taken care of. When you were hurt, when you were sick, when you were in pain. What was happening when you weren't sick and hurt and in pain? Well, maybe you got ignored. Maybe nobody noticed you. We've all experienced that as children where, oh, if I'm sick or suffering, I get attention. I get some care. When I don't, the people around me are so busy or neglectful or whatever that they don't notice me and my call for love. So it's not hard to understand how we could come to believe that sickness equals strength, that sickness and suffering equals love. It's not hard to imagine and understand how we might have made that decision as young children. And that belief has just continued on into, seems like it still works pretty good. Nobody feels guilty enough to do what I want unless I'm suffering. It seems like that it's still true, that belief that there is a payoff in sickness and suffering, and the payoff is getting what you want, which really means that's your strength, that we all came to believe that. It's not hard to understand how we would come to believe mistakenly that weakness and sickness and suffering is strength. All right. Now, when this occurs, that you believe that your suffering gives you strength, your suffering gets you attention and the care and the love that you felt deprived of, when this mistaken conviction occurs, then real strength, happiness, health, and wealth is seen as a threat, which means health is seen as danger. Right. Well, if people only love you and take care of you and do what you want them to do and give you attention when you're sick and suffering, then what does health, happiness, and wealth mean now? It means you ain't going to get what you need. Nobody's going to take care of you. Nobody's going to notice you, and nobody's going to give you any attention. So now you're going to see health as a weakness. That's what we have come to perceive, that being happy, healthy, and wealthy is a weakness, because now we're not going to get the attention and the sacrifice that we used to get through being sick or unhappy. Right. Beautiful. DR. I don't want to vote for sickness in my election. Very good. I want a day off and nurturing. Very good. Mm-hmm. This is very nurturing. This is real healing. This is causal healing. Right? What we typically as humans do is symptom management. We just manage our symptoms. If you're not getting to what's the payoff in this problem, what's the payoff in this suffering to me, then you're just managing the symptoms of the problem. This is how you get to the causal level of the sickness and the suffering. All right. Okay, guys, would you be willing to like, share, and subscribe to my channel? I would really appreciate it. It really helps the algorithm to push this class out to more folks on social media. And, what does the world need more than this? Talking about how real healing is accomplished, how suffering really does end for real. So thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And thank you for your super chats. Thank you for donating to support this miracles ministry. You can either do a super chats, or you can go to my website and make a donation. So, and I'm going to put my website up. Let me find that. Yeah. So if you'd like to make a donation to support this Course in Miracles ministry and help strengthen these ideas, or strengthen this channel so that it can go out to more folks who need to hear this, then this is a great way to do it. You can do it at my website, divinerevolutionarq.com. You can, if you sign up as a member, you get all kind of member benefits, like a twice monthly Zoom session with me, and access to my Course in Miracles readings that are only available to my members, and all kinds of goodies. All my writings now I post on my blog, on my website. And all my writings have the purpose of healing and inspiration and joy and healing the world. That's what my writings are all about. And also you can find out when I'm teaching, and you can access my books as well. So check it out. And thanks for coming and supporting my Course in Miracles ministry through participating with my website. I appreciate that. All right. Hi, Daniel. Lovely to see you. Thank you. Okay. Beautiful. So where we're at again is we are in the teacher's manual, How is Healing Accomplished? And we are in paragraph, we're still in paragraph 1. Yes. So, and we're starting back at the sentence, we must think, thank you, Dana. We must think that suffering is a small price to pay for something of greater worth. In order, if you're going to suffer, you're not going to suffer for nothing. You're not going to suffer for nothing. Who would do that? So if we're suffering, it's because we thought that it was strength, and that it would offer us something, and something of value to us. And that's what we're questioning, so that we can get to the root cause of the sickness and the suffering and accept the real answer. Now, it says, because sickness is an election. It ain't natural. It didn't come from God. Sickness and suffering is not natural in the universe, no matter what it seems like, which means sickness and suffering must be a decision. It must be an election. It must be a choice for weakness, in the mistaken belief that weakness is strength. Now, when weakness and sickness and suffering and this problem is seen as strength, because it's getting you something that you want. Now, real strength, happiness, health, and wealth is seen as a threat, and health is seen as a danger. Whew. That's why healing and that's why strength and health is not accomplished, even when you think you're asking for it, because there's a part of you that believes erroneously that if you are not suffering, you will not get what you think you want and need. All right. Hi, Mary. Lovely to see you, honey. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Trisha. Okay. Let me go ahead and I'll put back where we're at. Okay. This is where we're at, if you want to follow along. And we're in paragraph 2, and we're in the sentence that starts, when this occurs, that weakness and sickness and suffering is seen as strength, then real strength, happiness, health, and wealth is seen as threat, and health is seen as danger. Sickness, in other words, what is sickness? Well, Sickness is not an accident. It's not something that happened to you against your will. Sickness is a method conceived in madness for putting you on God's throne. That's what sickness is. Sickness is a method conceived in madness for putting you on Creator's throne. I'm God. I'm the creator of reality. I'm my own creator. I am God. That's what sickness is. Sickness is, I am God. I know the truth about me better than God does. I know the truth about them better than God does. I'm God. I know everything. I know what this means. I'm God. Okay. That's where sickness comes from. I know how to judge this appropriately because I know everything because I'm God. I know how to judge that person. I know who and what they are because I'm God. I know my truth and who I am, and because I'm God. Okay. That's where sickness and suffering and pain comes from. I know the truth about me, about them, about everything because I'm God. Wow. Says, I'll say that again. What is sickness? What is suffering? What is this problem? I know what everything means. I know what everything is for. I know enough to judge that person and myself because I'm God. Okay. That's our method, conceived in madness, of placing ourselves on the throne of God and being God. I know enough to judge. I'm God. That's what judgment is. That's what condemnation is. It's placing yourself on the throne of God as if you're the one who created them, as if you're the one who's the author of reality, as if you're the one who authored yourself. That's what sickness is. Now, in your insanity, when you have placed yourself on the throne of God, well, how do you think you're going to see God now? Like, if you put yourself on God's throne, what are you going to think of God? You're going to be like, I'm afraid of God. I'm afraid God's going to come in and be pissed off and kick me off the throne, aka punish me. If you in your madness think you know enough to judge, you're the author of reality, which is what you're doing in your judgments, then you better believe that you're going to be afraid of God, who does belong on God's throne. If you have kicked God off the throne, I don't need you, God. I don't need your word, God. I can come up with it myself. How do you think you're going to feel about God? You're going to see God as outside of you, and you're going to see God as fierce, and you're going to see God as powerful, and you're going to see God as eager to take back God's throne from you. Okay, now, and it says, and so you're going to see that only by God's death can you conquer God. So you're going to see that only by conquering and killing God can you be safe. Because now you're afraid of God. Because you're trying to be like God. You're acting like God. Thinking you know more than God. That's what judgment is. And so if you're trying to kick God off the throne, take God's throne and be God, you're going to be afraid of God. You're going to be afraid of God. And you're going to see God as out there and angry and fierce and pissed off and powerful and looking for you. Looking for you. Now, that's not what God is, but you can't help but see God like that if you have kicked God off the throne and decided that you know better than God about you or them or what this means. And that's what sickness is. You thinking you are God, that you are the author of reality, that you know enough to judge reality, to judge yourself, or to judge another creation of God. Wow, that was only one freaking paragraph and the introduction. Dang. I'm telling you, with A Course in Miracles, it's just, there's no end to the depth. You could take one paragraph, one sentence, and just do it for years and not get to all the depth of the meaning and the power that's in that one paragraph. And the Course in Miracles is holographic. It's like a hologram. In a hologram where if you take a little piece of that hologram and you look at that little piece, it contains the whole hologram in itself. That's what truth is like. That's what A Course in Miracles is like. You could take one sentence as a piece of that hologram, and you would see the whole of the curriculum in that one sentence. It's amazing like that. Just amazing. Hi, Irene. Oh, got all my girls in the house. Irene, Mary, and Trisha. And also Diana and Daniel. Oh, some of my most precious, beautiful, mighty companions. Thanks for being here, guys. So appreciate you all. So appreciate you. All of you. Okay. So that's where we're at. We're in the teacher's manual. And put this back up. Okay. Now, that was paragraph 1. Now, and what in this insane conviction that health is weakness does healing stand for? Well, it symbolizes the defeat of you and the triumph of God over you. When you believe that you have kicked God off the throne and you're God, you know enough to judge, then you are going to, you're going to see healing as something that represents the ultimate defiance in a direct form, which you are forced to recognize. So healing would be something that would be seen as a threat. If you are sick because you're thinking you know enough to judge you or others or this situation, now then health and healing and happiness is going to be seen as a direct threat. Okay. Now, because you're insane and thinking that you are God and want to kick God off the throne so you can judge, and now you're sick, now that you have that insane perception, now healing would stand for all that you're trying to hide from yourself to protect your life. In other words, if you are healed, you are responsible for your thoughts. Poof. Woo. If I'm healed, that means I'm responsible for my thoughts. I chose this sickness. I chose this suffering. If I am healed, it means I am powerful enough to choose suffering if I wanted it. And that's what healing and health now represents once you're insane. It represents that, I'm responsible for my thoughts. My thoughts are powerful. My thoughts are powerful enough to choose to suffer if I think there's a payoff to me. That's what healing represents now that you're insane. It's like, I would rather suffer than have it be proved to me that my thoughts are so powerful that I am responsible for choosing this suffering and this problem. Rather than recognize, my thoughts are powerful. My thoughts are so powerful that if I want to suffer because I think there's a payoff, I can produce some suffering. I mean, suffering that everybody would believe. That's how powerful my mind is. But I would rather continue this problem, continue this suffering, instead of recognizing just how powerful my choice really is. Wow. I'd rather die than see that I somehow chose this problem. I didn't choose this problem. I would be insane if I chose this problem. I'm not that powerful to have chosen this problem. This problem chose me. And I'd rather die. I'm willing to die and suffer to prove that I'm the victim of this problem. I didn't choose this problem. It chose me. And I'm willing to die to prove that I'm the victim of this problem. It chose me. Right. I'm not willing to die anymore just to prove that I didn't choose that problem. I'm not willing to suffer in sickness anymore just to prove that I wouldn't choose to suffer like that. No, I'm not willing to suffer. I'm not willing to do that anymore. I'm not willing. So, so now I'm not willing to suffer anymore just to prove that I'm a victim. What I mean? I am not willing to suffer anymore just to prove that I'm a victim of the world I see. No, I'm not. So, and I don't want to suffer anymore. And the Course in Miracles is telling me that the only way to stop the suffering, to end the suffering, to heal this problem or this sickness is to acknowledge that, well, actually, my thoughts are powerful enough to choose to suffer. If I decide that suffering's going to get me something that I want, oh yeah, my thoughts are definitely powerful enough to choose that sickness, to choose that suffering, to get what I think it was going to bring to me. For sure, my thoughts are powerful enough to do that. And I'm going to acknowledge that because I'm tired of suffering. You're telling me I don't have to suffer. You're saying that problems and sickness and suffering is not natural in the universe. It didn't come from God. It's not natural. You mean I don't have to suffer? I don't have to suffer. Then I don't want to suffer. So and now we're questioning. We are questioning our old belief that suffering brings us something that we want, something that we value. Okay. All right. Okay. Now we're going to go to section number 2 in this section, which is called the shift in perception. All right. I'm skipping the last few sentences because we've already talked about that. Okay. All right. So glad you guys are here with me talking about A Course in Miracles. I love talking about A Course in Miracles to you guys. It is so satisfying. It is so thrilling. You guys make it so exciting and thrilling for me. Thank you. All right. So let me see here. All right. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you for your super chats. When you like, share, and subscribe, it lets the algorithm know that this content is important, and so it sends it out to more people. And what does the world need more than this? I always ask that question. What does the world need more than these ideas? All right. The answer is nothing. All right. The shift in perception. Okay, ready to make that shift in perception? What shift in perception? Well, the shift from believing that your suffering, sickness, weakness, problem, pain is strong because it gets people to do what you want them to do, gets people to pay attention to you and take care of you. The shift from thinking that your sickness is what gives you strength to the awareness that that sickness does not make you strong, and it actually makes you weak, and that instead of that sickness doesn't work to give you what you want. It doesn't make you feel safe. Yeah, you may believe that being sick and suffering in this problem is somehow going to be your strength, as it will enable you to get your needs met and you to be taken care of. But the truth is that it doesn't make you feel safe, and it doesn't make you feel strong, and it doesn't make you feel loved at all. The whole purpose for the suffering that we made was to help us, make us feel strong. Like, well, at least I know, if I'm sick, people will take care of me. People pay attention to me. But that's not the end result. The end result is that you don't feel safe. You don't feel loved. You don't feel taken care of, and you don't get the attention, not the kind that you really want. So that's what we're talking about. All right. Beautiful. I love it. Tricia says, yes, if I'm responsible for my thoughts, and if I'm healed, I know that I'm responsible for my thoughts. Yes. Beautiful. Mary says, you always make the course so exciting and interesting and deep. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate that. Appreciate you. And then Tricia says, thank you for always making time for us, because I understand the commitment is huge and time is precious. Thank you. I just thank you, Anna. You teach life-changing stuff, miracles. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you for appreciating that. Thank you for recognizing the dedication. I appreciate that so much. Okay. All right. Okay. Here we go. You ready to hear some more deep stuff about healing? About the healing of the sickness, or the undoing of the problem, the undoing of the suffering. You ready to hear more about how healing is accomplished? Here we go. Healing must occur in exact proportion in which the valuelessness of the problem and the sickness and the suffering is recognized. So, to the extent that I'm recognizing that this problem, this suffering is valueless, it's not serving me anymore. I'm not getting the payoff from it that I, thought I might get. There's no payoff in it anymore. It's not serving me. To the extent that I recognize that it's really not as valuable as getting me what I wanted as I thought it would be, that is to the extent, exactly, that's to the exact proportion that healing occurs. This is not paying off for me in the way I wanted it to, or I thought it would. It's not worth it. This suffering ain't worth it. And worth it. It's not accomplishing what I hoped it would, which is like, oh, people take care of me and they give me attention and they love me and take care of me. Look at that. It did not accomplish that. I'm still afraid. I still feel alone. I still feel weak. I'm still sick. I still feel like I'm having to do it by myself. So the sickness and the suffering that I obviously chose, thinking it would get me what I wanted, is not giving me what I really wanted. It's actually not getting me anything of value. It's actually valueless. To the exact proportion that I recognize that is to the exact proportion that I experience healing. Wow. All right. And here's a very deep and powerful statement here. It says, you, anyone, need but say, there's no gain at all to me in this suffering, in this sickness, and you are healed. That's all you need to say. There's really no gain at all to me in this suffering, in this problem, in this pain. It's not benefiting me the way I thought it would at all. As a matter of fact, it's bringing me the opposite. There is no value to me. There is no gain at all to me in suffering in this way, in having this problem. It's not getting me the attention I desire. It's not getting me having people like, oh, let me take care of you. Let me fix it for you. It's not getting me anything. This problem, this suffering, this pain, there is no gain at all to me in this pain, this suffering. And all you need to do is say that. That's just say it. It didn't say accept it, welcome it, believe it. It said all you need to do is say there is no gain at all to me in this. And you are healed of that problem, of that sickness, of that suffering, of that pain. That's the real cause of healing. That's healing at the causal level. That's it. There is no gain at all to me in this, and you are healed of that pain. There is no gain at all to me in this, and then you are healed of the pain, of the suffering, the sickness. There is no, one need but say, there is no gain at all to me in this, and you are healed of that pain. Okay. All right. That's very powerful. It's like that's that's more powerful than any mantra, affirmation, talisman that you can use to recognize the valuelessness of the problem, of the pain, of the suffering, of the sickness, to recognize the valuelessness of it. It's not getting me what I thought it was going to get me. You know, when I attacked them and when I attacked myself and was all pitiful and suffering and weak and broke and depressed and sick and suffering, I thought it was going to get me the love and the care and the concern that I desired. But it didn't at all. As a matter of fact, people ran away from me because I was a buzzkill or they didn't know how to help me. They got their own suffering. So they left me alone to suffer by myself. This problem did not get me what I thought it would. As a matter of fact, there's no gain at all to me in this problem, in this suffering. It's not producing any kind of gain. And you are healed in that moment. But yes, the sickness of choice, Trisha says, didn't give me love. It gave me separateness. And I had to give myself shots. There is no gain in the suffering. I love that, Trisha. The sickness of choice didn't give me love. It just gave me suffering, separateness, and I had to give myself shots. That's the perfect description of how it happened. That is the perfect description, Trisha. I'm telling you, it's like the perfect meme of the real cause of sickness. The sickness of my sickness of choice didn't give me love. It gave me separateness, and then I had to give myself shots. That's beautiful. All right. Okay. So, but if you're going to say about your sickness, your problem, your suffering, if you're going to say there's no gain at all to me in this sickness, suffering, and pain, to say this, you got to first recognize certain facts. So to say there is no gain at all to me in this suffering, sickness, you got to recognize certain facts. And what are those certain facts that you got to recognize before you're able to say there's no gain at all to me in this sickness or suffering? Well, the first fact that you got to recognize is that the obviousness that decisions are of the mind, and not of the body. So if you're going to say there is no gain at all to me in this sickness and the suffering, it's not getting me what I thought it would, you're going to have to recognize that sickness, that problem, that suffering, that pain is of your mind. For you to go, there's no gain at all to me in this that I have chosen, you got to recognize a fact that choice was made by your mind and not your body. This suffering, this problem, this pain was a decision that was made by my mind and not my body. It is the certain fact that you got to recognize if you're going to say there is no gain at all to me in this sickness and suffering before it is healed. Wow. Oh boy. Thank you, Trisha. Trisha says, praise God for you and your teachings of the miracle. I don't know where I'd be. Oh my God. Thank you, Trisha. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, sweetie. You guys make it all worth all of the effort. Thank you. You make it all worth everything that I do to share these ideas so that I can be healed by them. Okay. So before I can look at my sickness and my suffering or my lack, whatever the problem is, remember that we're talking about healing of all types, not just healing of the body, but healing of belief systems, believing of lies. No. So what is it that you are needing healing of? Okay. So it says, So to say there is no gain at all to me in this lack, or there is no gain at all to me in this sickness, or there is no gain at all to me in this pain, or there is no gain at all to me in this problem, you got to recognize first the certain fact that the decision for this problem, this pain, this suffering was made by the mind and not your body. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, the reasoning and the logic behind this is that if sickness is but a faulty problem solving approach, then that means that the sickness is a decision. That's what this section is saying. Sickness is a decision. It's a faulty problem solving approach. It was made by my mind and not my body. It's made by my mind and not their body. Sickness is a decision. Sickness is a faulty problem solving approach that was made by my mind and not my body and not their body. That's what we got to, that's a certain fact that we got to recognize before we go, there is no gain at all to me in this at all. And that there's no gain at all to me in this. I thought maybe there would be, for sure. I learned that there would be. I thought there would be, but there's not. Okay. That, to do that, to say that, I got to recognize certain facts. Okay. Mary says, you are our theatrical Course in Miracles teacher, and you do such a good job in your expressions, which is your gift. Thank you, dear. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And then that makes me think of mine and Greg's class, Transforming Relationships Through A Course in Miracles. We're going to start doing that in person at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center and online starting September 28th. And we got our little lapel mics. We're going to be standing up and we're going to act out the course. You know, we're both gifted actors. As you know, Greg is a gifted actor. And so we're going to really go for the acting out of A Course in Miracles. And what better way to do that than talking about relationships and using our relationship to do that. So that's starting. So we're changing the night of our class, me and Greg, from Tuesdays at 7 p.m. And we're changing it to Sundays at 5:30 in person and online at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center, September 28th at 5:30 p.m. So, you know, come on in and watch Greg and I do Miracles Theater, where we're going to laugh at our ego. We're going to talk about our ego. We're going to laugh about our ego. We're going to put it in the corner and make jokes about it, right? And we're going to ask ourselves now, what did I think I was going to get from listening to that ego? What was the payoff I thought I was going to get? Okay, that's what we're going to be doing. You're welcome, baby. Okay. Okay, guys. So here we are. And now, okay. Now we're still in paragraph 1 of the second section, the shift in perception. And now we're in sentence 7 that says the resistance. You want to talk about the resistance? Yes, Trisha. Trisha says Greg does such a wonderful job. He does. He's a gifted teacher, gifted actor. No doubt about it. All right. And Greg himself has his own new YouTube channel also, where Greg's going to be channeling himself. And so, Greg, don't forget to put your new YouTube channel in here. Yes. Greg says we're going to laugh at all the bargains the ego is or has been trying to make with us. Mm-hmm. Exactly. You heard the phrase making a deal with the devil. You know, it's the same thing as making a deal with the ego. And this ego's like, okay, Anna, here's the deal. Okay, here's the deal. Okay, if you suffer, okay, you know, stay with me. If you suffer and experience a lot of pain and sickness and lack and you're broke financially, then other people will feel guilty enough to like do what you want them to do in your dream of what your life is meant to be. Okay, isn't that awesome? Okay, come on, that's the deal. You know, and we're learning how to go, oh, that's not a good deal at all. It's not going to work. And it's not a good deal because it's not going to work. Ego. Nice try, ego. Right. So thank you. So Greg's new YouTube channel is called The Third Testament. And that's where Greg is going to be letting Spirit channel through Greg in the way that Spirit does so brilliantly through Greg. So go check it out, you guys. And when you go to Greg's new YouTube channel, where he's going to be channeling Spirit in the brilliant way he does, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so that he can get 50 subscribers on his new channel, and then he can live stream. Okay, great. Now, are you ready to hear about the resistance that your ego is going to put up to this? All that we've just been talking about. How is healing accomplished? All you got to do is this. All you got to do is realize this. All you got to do is see this. All you got to do is say this. You got to know that the ego is going to have a kind of resistance to you doing this, like the likes of which you've never seen before. Okay. So you're being told how healing is actually accomplished, whatever you're suffering with. And the ego is going to be like, oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you didn't. Okay, now here comes the ego like, oh, I am pulling off the kid gloves. I am not even going to bother to pretend to be your friend, says the ego to you when you decide that you are not going to pay the price for that suffering anymore, because it doesn't have a payoff anymore. The ego is going to be so offended, and the ego is going to pull off the kid gloves, and it's going to bring some resistance. That's a perfect name for what the ego's up to. The ego is going to resist this awareness. Your ego is going to resist you having this awareness and doing this that really does heal all suffering and all pain and all problems and all sickness. Your ego is going to resist, and you need to know that. You need to know the truth about the ego's resistance, how it resists, why it resists, when it resists. Because the ego's resistance to recognizing this is enormous. Enormous. Not little, not medium. Enormous. The ego's resistance to this awareness, to your awareness that sickness is a decision of the mind for a purpose it's using the body. The ego's resistance to this is enormous. You need to know that. You know why the ego's resistance to recognizing this is enormous? I'll tell you why. It's because the very existence of the world as you see it depends on you being the victim and your body being the decision maker. That's why. That's why the ego's resistance to this is enormous, gigantic, big, huge. Why is the ego's resistance to this idea so enormous? Because the existence of the world as we perceive it depends on the body being the decision maker of what happens and us being the victim of the body, others, and the world. That's what the existence of the world as we see it depends on. You're the victim of the world. You're the victim of others. You didn't ask for this problem. This problem found you. This suffering imposed itself on you. The world and all of its evils and all of its toxicity did this to you. You are a victim. Your choice had no part to play whatsoever in the experience of the suffering and the sickness and the pain and the problem you are having right now. That, the ego's resistance to that, is enormous. So when you're like, okay, I'm going to take responsibility, even though I don't believe it at all, I'm going to say, Somehow my mind decided for this. Somehow my mind chose this. Somehow I have asked for this. This sickness, suffering, problem, pain is a decision of my mind that I'm using my body for. That my mind's using my body for, even if I don't believe that, even if I don't welcome that idea, even though I resist that idea, just saying it, even without believing it, your ego is going to resist enormously. That's why so many people get into A Course in Miracles and their ego just kicks their butt with resistance. Their ego pulls up every single problem that would prove to them that they are a victim of the world they see, and that their suffering, their problem, their pain had nothing to do with their decision. It happened to them. That's what, and then they put down the course. They just take that book and either throw it in the trash, or they crucify it, or they light it on fire, or they bring it as fast as they can to that used bookstore, or they sell it online for used books. There's no book that is easier to get as a used book online than A Course in Miracles. And this is why. Because the ego's resistance to these truths, these certain facts about where sickness really comes from, where suffering really comes from, is the ego has the most enormous resistance to than anything else, right? So just saying that, so to help you understand just how enormous the ego's resistance to these ideas is. And so if you, listening, watching, Mary, Trisha, Greg, Diana, Daniel, all you guys, Jean, Irene, if you are sitting here listening to Course in Miracles, if you're still studying A Course in Miracles, then let me tell you something. Obviously, you are not your ego. And obviously, you are more powerful than your ego. Obviously, you're the real one, and the ego is the fake one. Because the resistance of the ego to these ideas is so enormous that if you're still studying a course and still watching the course, then obviously you're the strong one in this seeming conflict, not the ego. You are. Because there is nothing the ego has more resistance to than these ideas. So if you're still studying these ideas and listening, then truly you definitely are more powerful than your ego. And basically you won. So, all right. Okay, guys. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to talk about the resistance, the ego's resistance to all these ideas that we've been talking about is enormous, because the existence of the ego world is dependent on you believing that your body is the decision maker, not your mind, and that you're a victim of the world you see. And all those terms like instincts and, quote, reflexes and the like, those words just represent attempts to endow the body with non-mental motivators. So those are just words. Those are just made up words. Instincts, reflexes, things like that. They're just made up words to endow the body with non-mental motivators, non-mental motivations. In other words, instincts and what was the other one? Reflexes is just the ego's attempt to make you believe that it's not your mind choosing what's going on. It's your body. It's the world. It's other people. But actually, the terms instincts and reflexes, they just merely state or describe the problem. The concepts of instincts and reflexes, they don't answer the problem. They just describe or state the problem. What's the problem? I think I'm a victim of my body. I think my body is the decision maker. and that my mind just, only has a choice of whether to, whether it likes that or not, that my mind is the victim of my body. My mind and my body are the victim of the world. Instincts and reflexes just reflect the problem, which is the belief that it's my body and the world that's making those decisions, not my mind, not my choice, not my decision. Okay. All right. Paragraph 2 in section 2 of Teacher's Manual, How is Healing Accomplished? There's 2 sections in this Teacher's Manual section, and the first section number 1 was the perceived purpose of sickness, and section number 2 is the shift in perception, and that's where we're still in right now. All right, I'll put this up here where we're at. Okay, beautiful. Okay, now, okay, so little recap. The acceptance, excuse me, the acceptance of this sickness or this problem or this pain as a decision of your mind for a purpose that your mind is using for the body, that your mind is using the body for, that is the basis of healing. Okay, so I'm going to practice it right here. I'm going to practice it. I'm going to think about the sickness, the suffering, the whatever it is. So we're going to say this problem of lack, or this physical sickness, or this suffering that I'm experiencing. I accept that it's a decision of my mind that my mind is using my body for. This problem is a purpose in my mind that is using my body for this purpose. I accept that. That's what I'm saying, even though I don't believe it, but I'm saying it because, of course, that's all I had to do. I accept that this problem, this suffering, this sickness, this lack came from a decision in my mind, a decision that my mind is now using my body to demonstrate. I accept that. Okay, great. Then it says that doing that is the basis for what? The basis of healing. The basis of healing. Okay? All right. So I want some healing. I need some healing because I'm suffering. I am sick. I have this problem. I got this pain. And so this is what I'm going to say. And this is what I'm going to accept. I'm going to say, I accept that this sickness, this problem is coming from a decision of my mind, that is using my body to demonstrate that I am a victim of the world and others and a victim of my body. I accept that. Okay, because I want healing. I want an undoing of fear. I want an undoing of suffering. I want an undoing of pain. I want an undoing of lack in my life. So I'm going to say that, even though I don't believe it. Now, and it says, and once you say this and you accept this, then you experience healing, and you experience healing in all forms. This is how healing in all forms happens. In other words, you, the patient, you decide that this is so, that your suffering and your sickness and your pain and your lack is coming from a decision in your mind that's using your body to demonstrate that you're a victim. You decide that this is true, and you recover. That's what the Course is saying. You decide this is true and you recover. If you decide against recovering, you won't be healed. If you decide against recovery, which comes from taking full responsibility for the suffering and sickness, then you won't be healed. If you decide against recovery, which means if you decide against taking full responsibility for the sickness, for the suffering, for the pain, for the lack, for the sickness, that's a decision of your mind that's using your body for that purpose, then you won't be healed. So in this situation, who is the physician? Who is the healer? In this situation of this sickness, this suffering, this pain, this problem, this lack, who is the physician? Who is the healer? It's only your mind. That's who is the physician here in your sickness, in your suffering, in this problem, in your pain. Who is the physician? It is only your mind. Only your mind is the physician. Only you, the patient, is the physician. Only the mind of you is the physician. The outcome, in other words, is what you decide that the outcome is. Do you want more suffering? Or do you want the undoing of suffering? Do you want the healing? The outcome is what you decide that it is. Now, special agents may seem to be ministering to you like medicine, like money, like whatever. Special agents, special healing agents seem to be ministering to you. I'm doing this course on financial abundance. So I'm taking these herbs. I'm taking this medicine. I'm doing chemotherapy. I'm doing whatever. Special agents seem to be ministering to you in your sickness, meaning things outside of you seem to be helping you in your sickness and your suffering. Yet the special agents called medicine, called money, called this thing, called that thing, all they do is they are giving form to your own choice. So I may be using medicine to give form to my choice, but all the medicines, all the special agents that I'm using to help me with my problem, all they're gonna do, the best they can do, is give form to my choice. In other words, if I want to be healed, then all the things, all the special agents I'm using for healing, like the medicine and the herbs and the money course and the this course and that course, all they're going to do is give form to my choice. That's all they're going to do. In other words, you're not healed or made well or made abundant or released from pain from anything outside of yourself. But if you've decided that you want to be healed and you want healing of the mind, and you've decided that you're not a victim of the body and the mind's the one making the choice for whatever you're experiencing, then the special agents, the things you've been using for healing and reducing of pain and sickness, they're going to work. And the only thing that the special healing agents are going to do is bring form to your choice. So if you've decided you want to be healed, then they're going to work. They're going to work. But all they're doing, it won't be the medicine that's curing the sickness. It'll be the medicine that's giving form to your decision to be healed. Right. Beautiful. Baby, will you be my special agent? Yes, I am a special agent. And that's what we all are. Special agents of healing. All right. Beautiful. Now, and it says that's all they do. Now, these special agents of healing, like medicine or a course on this or a course on that, it says these special agents of healing, they're not actually needed at all. What does that mean? That means you could merely rise up without their aid and say, I have no use for these special healing agents, period. And if you said that, then there is no form of sickness or suffering or lack that would not be cured at once. I don't need these special agents of healing my sickness and my suffering. I don't need them, because the healing of my sickness is me changing my mind about my decision as to whether I want to suffer or not. And it says, there is no form of sickness that would not be cured at once. Now, obviously, so now what is the single requisite for this shift in perception? The shift in perception where I don't need all those healing, all those, what do they call it, all those healing agents. I don't need them, because I'm going to decide with my mind that I'm responsible for what I'm experiencing, and there is no gain at all to me in this suffering anymore. So I've made that decision. Now I don't need all those special healing agents. And what is the prerequisite for making that decision? It is simply this: the recognition that sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body. That's all that is required for me to be able to make that shift in perception. To make that shift in perception where I go, oh, I don't really need that suffering anymore. I don't really need that problem anymore. I don't really need that sickness. I don't need that lack anymore. I don't need it. Because I've realized that what I'm experiencing is only coming from my mind and my decisions. And I decide that I don't want to suffer anymore. Suffering doesn't get me what I thought it would. And I want healing now. And for me to make that decision, the only thing that is required is for me to realize, me to accept, me to recognize that sickness, suffering, pain, lack is only a decision of the mind. And it has nothing to do with my body or the world or others. It's a decision of my mind. And it's valueless. It's not getting me anything of any real value. And so I don't want it anymore. I don't need it anymore. And since I don't need that sickness anymore, I don't need that suffering, I don't need that pain anymore, then I don't need all the things that I've been using to fix that problem, that sickness, that suffering. I don't need it. You know, sickness, this problem is coming from my mind, you know, and it's just a purpose in my mind that's using my body for that purpose. And I don't need it anymore. It doesn't work. And I don't want it. You know, I found something that really does work for making me feel happy and healthy and wealthy. And it works. And it's of the mind. And it's not of the body. And that is the basis of healing. Hallelujah. Beautiful. Like the Course in Miracles says, you know, only salvation can be said to cure, which means only the truth can be said to cure. You know, the only thing that really does cure and lasting cure is truth. The truth that all sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body. And that there really is no real payoff in sickness and suffering. But you deserve to be happy right now and forevermore. That you do deserve. All right. So I'm going to stop here for today. And let's just do an integration meditation. And let's just breathe a little bit. I'll take these ideas and we're going to use them. I want you to just breathe. Close your eyes if you can. Just breathe. How do you feel right now having heard these ideas? Just breathe and feel. Now I want you to bring to your awareness something that you've been suffering with, a sickness that you've been experiencing, a pain that you have been experiencing. I want you to bring that to your mind right now. I want you to ask yourself, what is the payoff to me in this? What is it I thought I might get from this? If I have chosen this, what might have been the payoff I thought I might get from it? How have I used sickness and suffering in the past to get what I want? Now I want you to tell yourself, there is no gain at all to me in this problem, this sickness, this suffering, this pain, this lack. There is no gain at all to me in this. Now I want you to tell yourself, even if you don't believe it, I accept the fact that this sickness, this suffering, this pain, this lack is a decision of my mind. My mind that is using my body for this purpose. And there is no gain at all to me in this. I decide that all I want right now is the truth, the loving, universal, unconditional truth, unconditional love that sets everyone free. That's all I want right now. Spirit, decide for healing and for truth for me. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining in this co-creation, this healing circle co-creation that always occurs when we join together to listen to the ideas found in A Course in Miracles. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting this healing, joining with your comments, your questions, your sharing, liking, and subscribing. And thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting it. Thank you for joining in it to make it stronger so that more children of God on planet Earth can hear these ideas and be healed and be released by them. as the innocent children of God that they are. I appreciate you all more than I can say. And I'll see you next time I